Welcome to the webinar, How to Prepare Your FBA Business to Sell. We got an exciting cast of characters here. I am Jim Barton, Strategic Partnerships here at Empire Flippers. And we'll kick things off with some introductions with the panel. Why don't we start with Don of AccrueMe? Why don't you give us a quick rundown of what AccrueMe does, how it helps entrepreneurs, and a little bit about yourself?
Sure. First off, on myself, I've been an entrepreneur for, long time, you could tell, but I've started and sold many different businesses. I've built companies, publicly held companies. Bought and sold well over 20 companies in my career in many industries, and built them in many industries, from entertainment, publishing, mortgage, real estate, all sorts of things. I had a lot of fun doing it, but I learned a lot of lessons along the way. And I hope I can share some of those lessons, on buying and selling businesses in particular. And what AccrueMe does is we are the only success-based financing company in this industry, and pretty much any industry. We created a completely new model from the seller's perspective, from a seller that wants to grow, not a seller that just needs to, pay bills. That's not who we are. We're here to help sellers really grow and expand their business and double and triple and quadruple the size of their business, so their exits are so much greater. And we do it with no interest, no fees, and no required monthly payments. Sounds crazy, but it's all true. So anyway, we'll get into more of it as it goes.
We will definitely be diving into that for sure, and looking forward to hearing more. Why don't we go with Greg, Empire Flippers? Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about Empire Flippers, and why you're the only one that has hair?
Dang, Jim, warming up the crowd.
There you go. Genuinely curious.
Yeah. So as my coworker has said, my name is Greg Elfrink. So I'm the head of marketing at Empire Flippers. So what I do is I mainly go and educate the market, because selling a business is typically very much a highlight event for an entrepreneur, right? It's not something that people are doing all the time. So I do content like this. I also lead the marketing team. And as far as where I am right now, I'm in Vietnam. I'm a digital nomad. I'm originally from Alaska, so it's nice not to be in the Arctic anymore. And as far as Empire Flippers itself, we are the #1 largest curated marketplace in the world now for buying and selling online businesses. And we've become pretty much one of the dominant players in the Amazon FBA space over the last 2 or 3 years or so. And this is a crazy statistic that I could throw out. So that we started tracking this about 2 years ago, I think, about how much verified liquidity our buyer network has. And we just, as of, I think it was last week, passed over $6 billion in our verified liquidity now. So that buyer network is getting quite big.
That's great.
Love it. Let's take a quick pause. I want everybody in the chat just to let's get the chat brewing a little bit here. Why don't everybody in the chat, please tell us where you're from, where you're watching this from, just to get things started. We'll ask for questions here shortly as well. Next up, Tyler, CEO, seller accountant. Why don't you tell us about yourself and a little bit about your company here?
Sure. Well, thanks for having me, guys. I'm Tyler Jefcoat, and I'm here in Athens, Georgia, by the way, for the chat here. So
there you go.
The Bulldogs are having a good spring, unless you are thinking about basketball, in which case we're having an awful spring for normal. Unlike Greg, I don't have any hair, but I do have a guitar behind me because I love playing guitar. So that's maybe something we have in common there, Greg. So I built a healthcare company about 9 years ago, and sold it in 2017, had a successful exit, and built this accounting firm. So think about seller accountant. We sell sexy bookkeeping, the kind of bookkeeping that can get through private equity level due diligence if you're going to sell your business. And then I'm the fractional CFO for 9 figures a year in e-commerce sales. So we were part of the due diligence team for a whole bunch of exits last year. And we were kind of part of the coaching side of the table for our clients as they exited. And can't wait to tell you some of their stories as we get into it here. Good to be here.
Love it. Absolutely love it. I also play guitar, although I haven't for quite some time. I switched to ukulele. just because it's easier to travel with. But highly recommend giving it a shot. Up next, last but not least, certainly not, is my Amazon guy, aka Stephen Pope. Why don't you give us the rundown? I'm sure many people know you here.
I don't think anybody cares who I am. They just care about the funny things I say, right? So yes, no hair. That's because I have 4 kids, 6 and under, and a business which is, made me pull all my hair out, right? So we all know how that is. That's why we're here today. So just super excited to be here to talk to everybody about all things Amazon, selling businesses, what you got to do to keep your business in the right shape to get it going before you sell it as well.
Love it. We got the chat is brewing now. We got a good eclectic mix of people from around the world. We got some people from Europe, from the States. Someone's in Thailand as well. Love it.
So Jim, just one quick thing. I see Andrew from Poland, currently living in Thailand. God bless the people in Poland. They've been, just holding up the world, man. Unbelievable. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yep. Crazy times right now, for sure.
They stepped up.
Yeah. Well, let's get rolling here. For anybody in the chat, feel free to pop your questions in the Q&A section. You'll see that. We can also pick it up out of the chat as well. And so let's maybe get started with maybe a bit of a softer question just to sort of tee things up. Why would somebody decide to sell their business? They've got this golden goose, right? It's supposed to be this is the 4-hour work week, right? This is the greatest business model ever. Greg, why would people decide to exit, and when should they think about doing that? Sure.
So for most successful entrepreneurs, they realize the 4-hour work week has a lot of flaws with its paradigm as you scale up. But typically, so we have sold close to 2,000 businesses now over the years, and that number is growing, dramatically, grows more and more each year. And really, it boils down to 2 different things. It's not what people think it is. I get questions all the time, like, oh, how do I time the market? How do I maximize my valuation? These are good questions, but they're often the questions that provide you the wrong answers. The real reason to sell a business, in my view, at least, if you want to sell it, is when it comes down to your personal and your business goals, which sounds a bit woo-woo, but hear me out. Like, you should basically time the market based on your personal and business goals, whether it's a lifestyle goal, a financial goal, etc. Because like I have seen, I know you have seen, Jen, I'm sure probably all of us on this call has seen people who have tried to maximize their valuation to go and sell, and then something happens, like an algorithm update happens, PPC costs rise, supply chain issues rise, and that extra 10% of your valuation, you're timing the market, but you probably wish you had sold before that update happened, because that was going to make it way harder. So I always tell people the best time to sell, when to think about selling, is to get to that. And one of the big reasons to sell is for what I just described. Those algorithms can often control your life. Like, even if you are working the dream 4-hour work week kind of setup, your business is probably taking a lot more of your mind share than 4 hours per week.
Gotcha. And certainly can take up quite a bit of mental bandwidth, for sure. And sometimes it's really, it's nice to get that off your plate. But as we kind of gear up for growing our business, oftentimes, I've talked to a lot of sellers that just did not have the cash to do so. That couldn't purchase inventory. And I think that's where someone like AccrueMe can come in. Don, when should sellers start to think about taking on funding, and what kind of goals or targets do you think they should have?
Sure. But before I jump into that, I just want to jump on that last question for a second.
Oh, perfect. And anybody, on the panel, please.
And I think
jump
Tyler,
in if you feel
I think
like
Tyler had something to say there too. But I'll just tell you personally, and this is going to be a different answer than I think most people will get or give. When you're younger, selling your business the first time can be more of an ego play than a smart business move. You could be fearful, which is definitely a big part of business. Not for anything, whatever size business you are today in Amazon, you don't know what's going to happen 2 years from now. I have a good friend who had a very, very large business, Amazon business, and didn't sell. And, some black hat things happened, and he lost his business. It went from a huge amount down to a small amount, had a big loan, like a $750,000 loan against his business that he had to continue to pay. It was with Amazon. And, he suffered for the next few years until he finally was able to get his product back. None of us know what the future brings. So fear definitely drives people to sell. But that first sale, when you sell, you feel like, hey, I just sold my business. I'm a millionaire. I'm a superstar. A millionaire is nothing anymore. It's a good thing. It's a very nice thing. And it gives you something in the bank to, count on and fall back on. But be careful selling for egotistical reasons, meaning that I feel like a king. I feel like the best guy in the world. I want to tell my family and my parents I just sold a business. Like, wow, that's incredible. No, try to get a consultant. Go to a Greg, go to a Tyler, find somebody who's done it, that understands the impacts of all of this, and find out, am I selling for the right price? Should I be staying in for another 6 months? Should I be coming to AccrueMe and getting money and doubling the size of my business and selling in a year? Will that improve my multiple? All things like that. Don't just dive into it and feel good about it. Do it smart. So Tyler, I know you were going to jump in on that.
Well, and I can identify with both of those comments. To Don, what you said, when I sold my first business, honestly, for you guys listening, me and my business partner had a dispute. So this is one thing that happens also sometimes, right? Where it was time for one of us to exit. I brought in an investor and wanted to scale, and my business partner didn't really want that. And I was like, all right, well, if we can't do what I want to do, no big deal. This isn't a marriage. It was pleasant. It wasn't ugly, but it was just time for one of us to leave. And so it was a happy ending. It was a great exit. And in hindsight, I was in a business that we had 120 employees, which is not a Stephen Pope like business, but we had a 24/7, 365 operation that I couldn't be more thankful to be in a much leaner ship now. So I do think that there was some ego and lack of communication for me and for my business partner that probably left some money on the table, if I'm honest. So there's that part of it. And then Greg, to what you said, I don't think it's woo-woo. I think if we could delete, Don, what you said there, the ego and the fear, and then actually just be kind of like Warren Buffett. Like, what is our objective? What is the objective for this investment? What do I want to accomplish? And Greg, you kind of mentioned it, but we had a hard example of this with one of my CFO clients last summer, where we had a number. He even had a number, got the number, and was afraid that it wasn't what he could get. If he kind of got a little greedy, said no to the offer. And to your point, Greg, the market shifted, and the same investor that gave him his number in June gave him a much smaller number in November. And so I think the point is don't do it out of fear, don't do it out of greed. Know what your objective is for this investment. And when you've reached that objective, it's time to exit. And if this is a big portion, like if this is your first exit, this business probably represents a huge percentage of your net worth, then you're probably going to have to exit earlier than someone, maybe like Don, who's exited multiple businesses. Maybe AccrueMe is a smaller percentage of Don's net worth than my business is of mine. And that's okay. I need to understand that my risk profile as a younger investor is one where I might need to exit earlier, because I got to make sure that I protect my family's finances. And so I think those are the things that probably go into the decision for me.
That is,
Really
I'll let you comment, Steve. I just wanted to tap on that. Like what you said there, Tyler, reminds me of another thing. I'm sure all of you guys have seen this too, is entrepreneurs, we're all obsessed with growth, right? Like we got to grow all the time, but like often growth can be that double-edged sword, where you could grow your revenue. It doesn't necessarily you're growing your profit, right? You might have scaled your revenue, but you might have also scaled your inefficiencies. So like people would think, I could get more. Here's my number. Someone gave me the number. I'm not going to take it. I'm going to go for even more. Like that's not good risk mitigation, right? If you have a good objective, a good goal, stick to the goal, work your plan, right?
Steven, did you want to add anything?
So, as we think about all of the things that are happening with business and with the economy, and everybody has to make their own decision, right? Like the way I look at it is Amazon is entering the maturity phase. There's never been a harder time to sell on Amazon. Everybody likes to think of Amazon as this hashtag passive income, right? But it really isn't. And even though it's never been a harder time to sell on Amazon, it's never been a better time to sell on Amazon as well. Why? Because there's still growth, right? Like just as one small example, you can look at the search terms on Amazon for something like gifts for mom. And 2 years ago, pre-COVID, you might see a search term like gifts for mom hitting, I don't know, 800K search volume on Amazon pre-COVID. During COVID, it goes up to 1.5 million, basically doubles, right? Last year, this is a year after COVID, goes up even more to almost 2 million search volume during Mother's Day. So there's still massive growth on Amazon. And so timing the market or looking at the opportunity with that in mind, people need to do what's right for them. And so I, of course, hope nobody sells their business, and I hope they hire me instead. But for those that do, make sure you have the business ready before you do, because guess what? If you don't have your things in shape, you don't have the things we're going to talk about today, your EBITDA is not going to be as high as it could be. It takes a lot of preparation, right? I'm sure these experts on how to sell their businesses would say, hey, you need at least a year to really figure things out, get the books in order, and put a game plan in motion, right? Well, if that's true, then you better invest in your business while you're trying to prep it, right? So that's kind of where I come in.
Makes sense. So go back to your original question, Jim, on growth capital and success-based financing. And, Greg, what you were talking about was, some mistakes sometimes people make is trying to grow when they should just exit. And most of these sellers, they know the business, they know what they're doing. So when they exit, they're not done. They're starting up the next business. And, remember, if I'm selling a product in, whatever kitchen and bath, I may be excluded from selling that product or those products, but there's plenty of other categories I could open up my business tomorrow and start selling again and go after it. And now I have a chunk of money behind me. So the way I've been looking at it, and again, from doing it many times, is get the most that you can. I agree. Don't delay. You pick your target number, go for it and get it done. But if you have products that you're profitable on, and adding more capital to your business and inventory to your business, and then adding more products that you've already done the research, and 95% chance you're going to be successful on those as well. Grow your business. If you could sell your business, just simple numbers, for $1 million today, but if you had the capital to really grow your business without taking money out of your business every month to make monthly payments, you can grow the hell out of your business. So you can go from $1 million in sale price to $3 and $4 million within 18 months is not unreasonable at all. What it means is going to work. It means you're getting the capital, you've got this unbelievable opportunity, you have this great knowledge, and then bust your ass. So that 4-hour work week goes out the window. Last thing I'll say on this, one of the things I've done in my career is anytime I've started a new business or I've got a new opportunity in front of me that we're going after, I would sit with my family, my wife and kids, even when they were small, like Steven's kids. And I would literally say to them, hey guys, I'm starting this new opportunity here, whatever it is, in addition to whatever business or businesses I had at the time. And it's going to take a lot of my effort. So for the next 6 months, if you guys want to go on vacation, you can go. I might be able to join you for a day, but I am going to be working my ass off and I need your support. Understand that I am going to be focused on this to make this good for us for the rest of our lives. And, it's going to be 6 months of intense work, but I hope you can, support me with this. And it was always the case. And we were still able to take time and enjoy life and go to baseball games and all these things. But everybody was focused on the same thing. They end up asking, hey, Dad, how's the business going? And now, you're having that conversation in the family and everybody's focused on the same thing. It also puts a little pressure on you. So anyway, that's just one of the tips that I have from my past. And I think easily you could double and triple your business in 18 months without question. We're seeing people quadruple their business in 9 months. So if you have the right capital, you can easily do it. We're seeing it every single day without question.
I like what you had to say on the on when you sell your business to like go into a new category, because that is something we tell our sellers as well. Like, don't fall in love with your brand, fall in love with the business model, right? Don't be guy who sells blenders on Amazon, be like a master of FBA. So like selling a business and then taking funding from say like AccrueMe to grow that next brand, you like kind of already know the path you're going to take. You like, I think that's a fantastic strategy in general.
One of the biggest changes we've seen in the marketplace too is instead of somebody hiring my Amazon guy as an agency for one account, they're now coming in hiring us for 2, 3+ accounts. And it's because they have every intention of selling one of those brands someday. Most important reason for why you'd want to have multiple accounts on Amazon is because you may have different partners. I might be a partner with Tyler on account A selling wine glasses, but I might also be a partner with Gregory selling a completely different item, say tweezers on a second account, right? And so there's some strategies and changes to the marketplace we've seen. It's never been easier to transfer Amazon accounts. It's never been easier to hold multiple accounts so that you have these business opportunities to, buy and sell something and pick up another one on the side and side hustle this one, or sell 2 of the 3 and hold on to the power horse. There's lots of options today.
Yeah.
That's a good point. And I mean, typically when we do a sale, Empire Flippers will just facilitate, an account transfer, that sort of thing. However, we're not able to help out before the sale. And we do see people, Amazon businesses run into issues where it's like, hey, they started out as a wholesale account and now they've got their core brand on that same account. I guess kind of jumping off the back of that, Stephen, how how can people now, perform these, transfers of their brand registry, but also the ASINs on their own?
So if you look at the Google internet history of having multiple accounts or transferring accounts, if you look at anything that dates, I don't know, 5 years ago, it's scary what you read, right? Like horror story after horror story. Then these things called aggregators popped up and business transfers just kind of accelerated. Then all of a sudden in the last 2 or 3 years, Amazon made it really easy to transfer accounts. And really all you have to do today, you don't even have to ask for permission to open up a second account. You don't even have to ask for permission to transfer an account these days. You just simply go into settings and transfer the ownership and redo the legal tax questionnaire. And prior to that, I would consult people and say, hey, ask for permission, file a ticket before you do this. None of that's really needed anymore, surprisingly. You can go ahead and just jump right in and make the changes. And if you do get a security hit where Amazon, reverts the changes, a simple ticket or a simple conversation with Amazon gets you sorted out in 72 hours. So my concern level was up here 5 years ago. It's now down here, and it's very more palatable and capable of doing it. Brand registry is a little bit trickier because this program, which has been around for a long time, is still in beta for some reason. And I just think it's because Amazon hasn't given it any resources, right? At the end of the day, Amazon is what? A buyer's platform. And they don't do a whole lot to help sellers out until there's just massive complaints that get filed. Brand registry is the buggiest thing that exists in the Amazon ecosystem. It's getting better every single day though. And so if you want to transfer a brand registry from one account to another, painful, but doable. And you can even unenroll a brand registry from your own account so they can simply refile it on the other one. That's probably my best tip on that subject, is simply unenroll it, re-enroll it on another account, and then you can get up and running in less than 24 hours. Because it's surprisingly to me how many times people are like, I don't know which email I have my brand registry on. And then you have to go and hunt that stuff down. There is nothing that could slow down buyers' interest than not having all these ducks in a row. Am I right on this, guys?
Makes absolute sense. Anybody that's going to buy your business is going to make sure that's all in order, and you've got your brand and the whole bit. Go ahead, Greg. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was just laughing about the brand registry beta. It's still in beta thing. It just that to me is always a reminder, when someone looks at another entrepreneur like, oh, they really have everything together. Like, well, they probably don't. I mean, look at Amazon. Once you become a seller, it's still pretty messy behind here. Oh, this billion-dollar company.
It's a little funny with the aggregators also, because the deals that we saw get through diligence even 12 months ago were much worse diligence from the investors than there are now. So I do think that the population is getting smarter. Maybe the aggregators are getting out of beta also, Greg, right? So it's because we did see some ducks not in a row early on in a way that We actually do the accounting for a few of the smaller aggregators. And so, yeah,
uh,
it was a mess early and it's a less of a mess now.
We tested the aggregators in their alpha phase back in 2017. You never hear about those ones because they had not figured out how to do anything yet. Those ones failed.
Didn't make it.
Yeah.
That's right. Good stuff. I guess we have a question in the chat here. I guess maybe this isn't directly related to exiting, but do you guys notice any particular niches that are doing well or that are particularly sought after?
I think we should do
for
a round
acquisition?
robin on this. Like just everybody give a quick answer.
Let's do a lightning, lightning.
I'm a really big fan of gift giving and outdoor, and I think there's some underdeveloped low bids, low ads, and easy to gain traction in those categories. Not supplements.
Yeah, I agree that apparel and supplements are difficult because they're hard to differentiate. I mean, if I had a preference, I would have something that was invented. Stephen and I have a mutual client who can launch $1 million product on Kickstarter every time he invents something. And so if you have a way to create something that's truly differentiated, that's a little bit more evergreen in that it has some seasonal swings, but not gigantic seasonal swings, and something where you actually understand your customer, because I think just purely gaming the algorithm is the part that Stephen mentioned earlier, where he says there's a maturing of the marketplace where you can still make a great living gaming the algorithm, but that competitive advantage is waning. And so the need to actually innovate and build good products is it's kind of like a point for common sense. It's getting more important.
I would say to add to the do not do list of the apparel and the and the other one Steve mentioned, I would also add, obviously, electronics to that one. That is a really hard one for someone starting out to sell. Really anything with a lot of variations. In terms of niches that I think are interesting and have a lot of profit. Outdoor, like that was already mentioned, but home and kitchen, I think there's a lot of opportunity in there. And really in general, anything that, and dogs, animals, pets, anything like that, that's a huge market. We've sold a lot of businesses, but not just with Amazon FBA, but even with SEO content sites in that niche. And that's always a very hungry market, it seems.
Yeah, I'm just going to chime in real quick. All great points. But from our standpoint, because we get to see so many different brands and we get to see so many different products and what they do or don't do in some cases, that we never talk about them because we never want to, give up some information that somebody's doing on our system. But everything you guys said is exact, except with supplements. We have plenty of clients that are doing really well with supplements as well. So I guess it depends on the individual, the product, and how they're marketing it.
Go ahead, Stu.
I will say this. So if anybody who's read Good to Great, the book, and it talks about hedgehog concept, it doesn't matter what sector or what category you're in, as long as you have a hedgehog concept where you're steamrolling your basics, because the basics always win the marathon.
Yeah. Great point.
Very true. The supplements thing, that's a bit of a it's not a bad niche because there are buyers who love those businesses. It's just smaller. And I think a big part of it, and you've probably seen this, Don, is a good brand with an actual good product. Because that niche can be very spammy and shady, right? So you want to have those two things if you're looking to build out a supplements brand. But yeah, and to Steve's point, we've sold almost every niche underneath the sun. And in general, as long as your business is a high quality business making good cash flow, there is most likely a buyer looking for it.
Definitely.
All good stuff. Well, let's maybe dig into some nuts and bolts. Why don't we talk a little bit about accounting here with Tyler? Why don't we, what kind of accounting errors do you see absolutely kill deals? And maybe we could do a little round robin of, have you guys seen any kind of kind of nightmare stories related to books and that sort of thing?
So I think the 2 points I'll make related, I'm bookkeeping boy, so I want to by the way, you talked much about accounting and people, you lose them in these things. So the two
well, I'm seeing our
things that you
attendee list
should
go
do,
down. Yeah,
that's right. Do two things. Make sure that your bookkeeping is in an accrual fashion where you actually can, and this is what the heck does that mean? If you can pull your profit and loss statement by month, so it's like January, February, March, right next to each other. And if your gross profit margin is 80% I'm a hero, negative, I had a really bad month. And so if those profit margins are swinging wildly, it means you're not doing a sophisticated enough accounting method. And it's time to convert, maybe to Stephen's point from earlier, but maybe a year before you go to market. And then the second thing that you can do is, as a guy who does due diligence a lot, is you can make your geeky due diligence team giddy if you create what's called a data room. This means like a Dropbox or a Google Drive where every invoice dated, every bank statement dated, every customs, every tariff, get the stuff in order, because guess what? They're going to look at your books. Your investors are going to look at your books, but they're not going to believe them. They're going to go independently create their own picture. And if you can make it really, really easy for them to create that picture, you can lower buyer anxiety substantially and get a higher multiple.
Big time. Love that. We've seen due diligence get out of hand because just sellers weren't organized. That can be tough. Anybody else have commentary on kind of books, or have any or if not, let's go with maybe like a kind of like a nightmare scenario where somebody just was not prepared for the exit.
Well, I mean, just a comment to what Tyler said. Like I was going to mention the accrual thing, but since Tyler already did, you should probably hire Tyler to handle your books. He already had like the light tip. This is something that we see a lot because like we have a vetting team, and most likely nowhere near as sophisticated what Tyler's doing, right? Because like Tyler is a specialized accountant for this stuff, but we see this a lot with FBA entrepreneurs with bad books, whether it's like, it's not just the cash and accrual thing, is sometimes it's like literally it's wrong. Like this is why buyers don't like to go off of it. And this is why we force our sellers or to go through our process where we rebuild it from scratch to try to get rid of that. But from a selling perspective, like if your P&L is wrong, this is like one of the, if not the most important documents in your business. Like if there's something wrong here, that sends signals to the buyer, like what else is wrong? Like, let me see every single receipt in that data room, right? So it can create a snowball effect of problems where you don't get the books right. It's super tedious, but again, just hire someone like Tyler. He'll take care of it for you.
I'm going to chime in real quick on this because something that we've done in the past in my career is when I know that I'm looking to sell a business, going out to someone like Tyler and a year in advance, a year and a half in advance, and say, can you do an audit of our company, not just our books, but our company, as if you're buying the company. Where are the holes? What are we doing wrong? Do we need, SOPs for this? I don't know what I need. Can you tell me other things that I'm not doing right or wrong and what I'm doing wrong? Help me get prepared today so that we don't have, this fire drill at the very end. We can get everything in order a year or so in advance, everything running, everything working, accordingly. As he said, having that data room, a Dropbox or however you're going to do it. There's plenty of ways. It makes life so easy. Anyway, I'd go to Tyler, but I would go to Tyler, a year and a half in advance, even 2 years in advance. It's not going to hurt you.
Well, and whether you come to my team or not, and there are teams out there, we're one of them, but I would just say this: start viewing your financials as a storytelling mechanism, right? So if I'm going to go buy a car, I go to a car lot. If they don't mow the lawn, if the guy looks greasy, if everything looks shady, I'm going to be very unlikely to pull the trigger in that purchase. And if I do pull the trigger, I'm going to ask a whole hell of a lot of questions because I need to start from a high anxiety level and try to bring that down. It's the same thing when you try to sell your business. If your financials are not clean, and every business has warts. If I'm not leading with the warts during the beginning of my diligence section, before LOI even happens, to say, hey, you know what? Funny story. Last June, we had a shipment get caught up in the LA port. And because of that, we had a 20% drop in our sales in July. But here's what we've done to correct that. All of a sudden, your story, which was a shitty month, by the way, we had a bad month in July, but now that story changes to, oh, this is an opportunity for the investor to do this and actually make money in the future. And so if you can kind of think of your financials, I want them to be clean. I want them to be 100% truthful, even in the bad months. And I want to make sure that they, again, think about the car lot. I want the lawn mowed. I want the grass to look good. I want my first impression to really make me look like a hero, and not that I'm perfect, but that I'm honest to the investor.
Tyler, you and I are speaking the same language there. I always tell sellers to talk about the things that are wrong with their business. A lot of sellers are like, oh no, this business is like perfect. Like, no, it's not. You know, like I know they'll try to sell the buyer though this next $10 million idea. The P&L saying it's the next $2 million idea, right? I was like, it's okay to talk about your mistakes because that's how you do build that potential with the investor, right? So that's how you actually do sell on potential is by talking about your mistakes. It makes the whole thing so much easier. They're going to figure it out anyways, right? If they're good at due diligence, at least they'll definitely figure it out.
Absolutely. And just taking a look at the chat here, we do have another question. I think we kind of answered this, but Nick has asked, hey, Steve mentioned about giving it 12 months before selling your business. And I think Don, you echoed that sentiment. How much time should sellers give themselves to prepare their business before selling it? And what are the things they can focus on to position their business to be prime for selling for the best exit? Maybe that's a bit broad. I don't know. Steve, you have any commentary on time frame and kind of getting these things ready?
So if you got to get your books in order, you got to have your accounting and your narrative, just like Tyler and the crew have been talking about. But one of the things you also need to do is check some basics of things in your Amazon account, right? So don't run out of inventory is rule number one. Rule number two, though, is just as important as rule number one. Don't run out of inventory. Because if you run out of inventory, what's that going to do to the deal is they're going to say, hey, if you're not piloting the ship in the most basic thing, then why would I trust that you've done anything in any other category, right? There's some things that are overvalued and undervalued when people look at an Amazon account, and some rightfully so, and some maybe not rightfully so. As one example of something that's undervalued, it's organic keyword results, right? Like this is a sector that I'm a huge advocate for, and I'm always talking about how you need to invest in SEO. And the reason is because people, when they spend lots of money on PPC costs going 35% up. If that's all of your business, you just took 35% hit potentially to your margin when you go to sell it. And for those that invested into SEO a year ago, best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. Best time to plant a tree second time is today, right? Like this sort of long-term investing is part of the great narrative. And so SEO is a sunk cost as a small example, but if you can index a product for 4,000 keywords and you go to market with that, that is very powerful. And that's part of the narrative that I don't know is told enough during some of these transitions, right? But if we had to summarize the basics that you have to manage an Amazon account, you need to grow traffic in the form of PPC and SEO. And you need to grow conversion rates in the form of your designs and your catalog management. So does your company have a game plan and a narrative in all four of those areas to market the company? And don't run out of inventory.
What do you think about inventory there, Stephen?
It's really super important. I don't think people talk about it enough.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
A couple things I would just add there is, like, if I was going to sell, because the timing, if I was going to sell my business and I had less than a year, I'm probably not going to start anything new. What I mean by that is I'm going to have a clear roadmap. I may launch a variant, I may launch one new product, but if I'm T-minus 12 months, I'm getting my data room, getting my books in order, I'm cutting as many expenses as I possibly can, and I'm going to try to make sure that I'm lean, mean. I'm not going to go launch a Shopify site if I'm T-minus 12 months. I'm probably not going to go to the EU if I'm T-minus 12 months. I'm going to clean up, optimize so that I can get a maximum exit. If I have more than 12 months, it's interesting, the prevailing wisdom is changing. So 3 years ago, the prevailing wisdom was always Amazon's got you by the, you're right, and you need to probably expand beyond Amazon so that you're not as risky. However, all of a sudden this phenomenon of aggregators come, and then they were paying higher multiples for simpler 10 ASINs, just Amazon businesses that were lean. And so the wisdom changed a little bit a year ago, and now it's actually maybe reverting back. So if I have more than 12 months, the advice is to understand common sense, which is if I can diversify off of Amazon safely, which means to not do it halfway, do it correctly, then I probably should, unless I'm imminently selling, in which case I need to get as focused as possible on just getting optimized.
And don't run out of inventory.
Don't run out of inventory.
But, Greg, I know you want to chime in, but I'm going to just add on to that real quick. I've seen sellers that at the very end, they're going down the path and they're getting ready to sell, and they've got a couple of offers and they're ready to close and everything is good. And then they get stupid, and I hate to use that word, but they end up not investing in their inventory. And now they sell today, and now next month they're out of inventory. Well, almost all of these deals are on a buyout. And if you're out of inventory next month, you're just hurting yourself. You get that money back when you're selling the business. So don't worry about it. Don't get chintzy at the very end. Keep investing in your business. Keep investing in your inventory right to the very end. And then it's up to, whoever bought you to do it. But don't let it go, have no inventory right after you sold as well.
Running
all
a
the way through.
business is a marathon, is the theme of what Don just talked about. This dude could run a marathon. He'd probably beat me in a marathon. Look at the muscles on this guy.
Yeah,
There it is.
Old guy. Old guys rule.
I think sprinting is, sexy, right? It's flavorful, but the real thing about running a business is it's a marathon, right? Like, it is grueling. If you don't have the guts to get up in the morning to work on your business and keep running that marathon, might be time to tap out. But even if you want to tap out, you have to keep running the marathon until it's sold. And
Exactly.
if you're only running to that finish line and then you pass out right at the finish line, you're leaving money on the table. You got to run to the tree that's past the finish line, as my dad always said when he ran the 400 meter in college and high school, right? Like, you have to keep running past that finish line because it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Absolutely. I just want to comment all three of your guys' advice. Spot on. This is stuff that, resonates with me, having sold, hundreds of businesses at this point. Tyler, with the experimental marketing thing, we literally had a fantastic FBA business. I think it was about $1.2 million that recently came onto our marketplace, or almost came on our marketplace rather, but we couldn't because of the massive experiments that she was running with her ads. I would throw all the buyers off, all this unproven stuff she was doing, right? And of course, running out of inventory. We've had that issue as well, as Steve said, the two most important rules right there. So great advice all around.
By the way, a comment on running out of inventory, what these guys are saying is you do your hero SKUs. If I could give you one piece of tangible advice related to inventory, it's the reality is we only have so much working capital. We probably need to, get AccrueMe involved if we're running out of capital. But the reality is, unless we have unlimited funds, we need to prioritize our best products and the best products. So if you could kind of have a green light report, these are my heroes, my yellow, and then my red light ones. Whatever's in your green zone, your top third of your ASINs, under no circumstances are you ever to stock out of those products, because those are the profit drivers for your business. However, if it's the green variant that you sell 3 a month, and I have to figure out where to put my precious dollar, I actually may choose to not, I might be okay if that one stocks out because it's not a great SKU. And I may actually need to put that one on the chopping block. But the key is, if I can look at my catalog, where's my 80-20? Where are the ASINs that actually generate profit for me? And those need to go on I don't care what I have to do to beg, borrow, steal to get the capital. I need to make sure that I don't stock out of these, because these are actually the only thing that matters in my business.
For sure. That's surprising to me sometimes. How I think it's gotten a lot better over the years, but I remember when we first started selling FBA businesses back in 2016, some of these entrepreneurs had no idea what their hero SKU even was, what was selling good, right? They just never tracked it. I think it has gotten a lot better, but that always surprises me. Every now and then we still get businesses you should clearly be liquidating the SKU. It hasn't sold in a long time. Why do you still have it in stock?
I have some $14 funny wine glasses that are not moving very well right now. And I've had to move them down to $10 to try and get them to move, because nobody wants to buy a 14 funny wine glass right now. So I know all the liquidation things. They're real. Living it.
But stay with that, because when we run into that as well, that people we look at their business, we're like, all right, all your SKUs look good. This one is a dog. And I know, but it was such a good deal when I got it. It was a whole story. All right, so why don't you sell it? Well, if I sell it, I'm going to take a loss. So I don't want to take a loss. Wait a minute.
Trash to cash.
Exactly. Sell it even with a loss. Who cares? Put that money into cash. Now you're buying good inventory and you're making money. It's the same thing with stocks. You have a dog in your portfolio. We all have many of them. And what you do, the mistake people make is they hold on to it forever. You didn't make any money with it forever. So sell it, put it into something that you know is good and feel good about it. Same thing with Amazon. Sell the garbage and put it into good SKUs or into a new SKU, new ASIN, and build another brand. Keep going.
Great advice. Absolutely.
No, I'm all in on the sunk cost fallacy. It always
Jim's
works
just
out
gonna
well. I'm just
Jim
gonna
will buy
keep going.
Steve's inventory.
There you go.
Yeah.
Give me those wine glasses. Holding on to these
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah.
How about we have a quick broker question. This is a good one, actually. So if you're working with a broker and you're not seeing or receiving any activity or inquiries, when should you or can you switch to another? Is this normal or is it common? And I have commentary, but Greg, I'll let you.
Jim used to do all the exit planning for our sellers before joining up with my team with strategic partnerships. So he's dealt with this a lot as well. But yeah, there's a few reasons why you might not be getting activity, right? Maybe it's a low quality business, right? And maybe that's why, like, that could be one of the reasons. But even high quality businesses, sometimes they can get passed over for reasons unknown even to us. And we have arguably some of the most data of any of the brokers with what we do. We have a whole developed platform based on it, right? So if you are concerned you're not getting enough activity, I think the first step I would take is reach out to the broker that you're using, whether it's us or someone else. Like, hey, can you send out another email to your list, to your targeted list? Like for us, for example, if we see a listing that isn't getting a lot of love, we will go into our HubSpot and find the segment of buyers that showed us that amount of verified liquidity and that kind of interest in those kind of businesses, and send out another email or create content around these type of businesses to drive more interest back into the marketplace. It's just like one example of something we might do, right? So that's some of the stuff you can do. In terms of like, if you're just at the end of your rope with the broker, most brokers have a limited exclusivity. Some brokers have no exclusivity, though those are pretty rare. Most brokers are about 6 months, is pretty normal. We do 2 months. Our average business sells around 27 days, if I remember that right. So that's why we have a 2-month exclusivity. But yeah, I would just talk to your broker, see what is going on. They probably have some feedback for you, why they think it's not getting some attention. And you can probably curate a game plan from there.
Yeah, I'll just hop in and say that generally your broker should be setting your expectations that if it's going to take a while, they should have probably known that. So hopefully you're not getting any false promises. Like Greg said, most typical exclusivity is 6 months. Ours is 2 because we typically sell, in less than 2 months. So you're always welcome to go somewhere else too if it doesn't work out.
That expectation thing is super important in this industry. So in my little part of the industry, there is quite a few bad actors out there. And they'll give you like this insane valuation for your business. Then they get you to sign the 6-month exclusivity. And now they start beating you down to reality as well, which can cause a lot of frustration. And this could lead to like, your price is way too high because they haven't yet beaten you down to what they really think it could sell, right? So no one's looking at your business's price too high. This is something we try never to do. We're very upfront about it when someone comes to us, like, and they'll like people will even tell us like, well, broker XYZ over here is going to give me a way bigger valuation. Like, you should go with them because like I don't know how they're going to be able to do that. Like that sounds like a great deal. Like you should definitely not use us then. But so that's something you got to be careful as a seller. A broker can sometimes with some bad acting rope you into that exclusivity that leads to this problem because they didn't give you realistic expectations of what you should be selling at.
It's like selling your house. Hey, I'm going to sell my $1 million house, but the realtor told me I can get $1.5 million. Okay.
Right.
Or in this market, maybe you could, but So, hey, one quick question, Greg. You mentioned earlier, you just threw it out again about liquidity. How much liquidity did you say that Empire Flippers has?
Yeah.
Like
so we just recently
buyers that are, confirmed liquid. How much did you say?
$6 billion now. Yeah.
Jesus.
So
wow.
It's we started tracking that number as kind of a novelty item. So we developed our engineering platform, right? And we were trying to figure out a new way to make it so sellers weren't dealing with tire kickers. And the easiest way is like, all right, show us how much money you got to buy this business. Prove to us you can, right? And so we started getting that stat, verified liquidity. Like, what if we just like start tracking this all the time? So we did, and it's just like skyrocketed. Like, oh wow, we have a bigger buyer network than we expected.
Wow, that's tremendous.
What's crazy is that number was only
obviously a big part of it, but yeah, go ahead, Jim.
I was going to say, I mean, we only surpassed 1 billion not that long ago. That was a big accomplishment. And it's just,
Yeah. I mean, we've only been tracking it for 2 years or so, right? So I remember when we passed $1 billion, my marketing team and we were, screaming out to the rooftops, like, wow, we have so much. And now we're at 6 billion.
Well, if you think about it, I know this is a little off topic, but, last year, I remember the entire aggregator group in the industry raised something like $13 billion. It's a huge number.
Yeah.
And if you guys have 6 billion, so roughly half, that's unbelievable in one company. Anyway, I don't want to harp on it, but it's really an amazing statistic.
One of the, and this is kind of like, I guess a bit chest pounding, but I think it's cool because the aggregators, they're an interesting group of buyers. They're obviously some of the more savvy buyers in the industry, but they routinely tell us they love using us. So like a lot of aggregators rather, when they first start off, we're like their first stop. Like I get hit up on LinkedIn all the time, like, hey, can I join your guys' podcast or do a blog post or do something with you guys? Because they haven't built their own private deal flow yet. They're trying to get their name out there and build some trust. Or when they do start talking to the sellers on our marketplace, like, oh yeah, I just listened to them on the podcast, right? All that kind of stuff. So that I sometimes jokingly call the aggregators like the children of the empire, because a lot of them started off by using us, right? Like way back
Makes
in the
sense.
day.
Makes sense.
not bad. Well, yeah, cool. Let's maybe we'll step away from the broker talk and maybe we've got one. How about some mistakes that you guys have made in key mistakes you've made when trying to exit your businesses?
Well, I know
Don,
Tyler and I both have a few,
Yeah.
and I'm sure you other guys will chime in on it. I'm just going to give one quick one. My first business I sold, biggest mistake I ever made, selling the business. And it's interesting, it was more of an ego and a fear play because I was earning a net profit of over $100,000 a month for quite a while. And then market turned against me and I was losing $100,000 a month. And, the first month, like, I can handle that. Second month, I can handle that. Third month, I can handle that. Fourth month, oh my God, what am I going to do here? I better make some changes. I flipped everything around, and within a few months, like 6 months, I was back making a net profit of over 50,000 and on my way to 100. And I decided, I don't want to do this again. It's a little scary. I don't want to lose everything. So let me take some money off the table when I have the opportunity. So it was fear. And also I felt very good. I was very young that I was able to sell a business. But the mistake I made when this buyer came to me and put a great offer on the table, and I was very excited and felt great about it, I told a lawyer friend of mine, and he said, "Oh, congratulations. I'll take care of everything for you." Well, that's wonderful. But he was a real estate lawyer. I didn't know better at the time. I might have been 30 years old, maybe. And I didn't know any better. I just knew that this was, a Ivy League lawyer, brilliant guy, great guy, much older than me, has done plenty of deals for me, in not M&A deals. And oh my God, if I could tell you the amount of mistakes and the amount of money that was left on the table and the amount of money I had to pay lawyers to go sue to get paid for the deal that I just did, that didn't need to happen. I'm not blaming him at all. I never did. It's my fault. I didn't know better. I made a major mistake. So the first thing I would say to you is make sure you get your books in order, get a good business attorney, an M&A attorney who's done these deals before. It'll save you forever. Don't worry about the cost. It's invaluable. So that's my one bit of advice.
Good, very good advice.
Oh my God.
My
Lawyers
biggest
never
mistakes,
complicate anything.
That's right. Well, honestly, I can, those errors, I made them to a wrong attorney in the room for one deal. That was one that I really wish that I had made a different choice on. I'm actually not a CPA. I don't do my own taxes because I want to have the smartest guy in the market do my taxes. I am a bookkeeping team leader and I'm a CFO. And so I think having someone who's really an expert in whatever you're looking to have solved is key. And then for me, to be honest with you, my most expensive mistakes, period, hands down, not even close, have always been people mistakes. So my mentor always said the most expensive time in any entrepreneur's life is the time between when she loses faith in someone and when she does something about it. And so I can look back on a couple of choices where I didn't let somebody go when I knew I should have, that had 7-figure implications for my bank account, right? And so I think as we get to, what I've had to learn is to trust my intuition a little bit more as a leader, to say, I knew that person didn't fit. I knew they didn't fit, and I liked them and I wanted to be nice and I didn't want to have the confrontation. And so as a result, I didn't hold them accountable for their performance, and they were miserable and I was miserable as a result. So I think my biggest issues were 3 or 4. Oops, I really wish I'd have been a better leader, and being a better leader would have been creating accountability and probably letting somebody go.
Can I just add on to that real quick? Because this is a great lesson for everybody in business. You may not have employees yet, but when you do, and if you do today, this is invaluable. We would all say, and Tyler, I'm sure you would agree with this, that at that time when you had this employee that you should have fired, you care about your team. And that's the problem. We care about our team, but that's what we should do. We really should care about our team. And Tyler, the mistake and the thing that I would put into my head is, if I really care about my team, I'm cutting the bad guys out real quick. And the way I always talked about it, literally with a company with 7,000 people, and I'd stand in front of all my managers and I would say, we're going to grow fast. We're going to hire the wrong people. It's going to happen. But when we see it happen, it's your job to cut the cancer out quickly. Just protect your team, get this out of here as quickly as possible. And I remember one of my managers saying, well, aren't we supposed to give a 60-day performance review and then a 90-day this? I said, no, you got to protect your team. If you care about your team, fire that person right away. Get them out of there. Give them severance, give them whatever you have to do, but get them out of your office and out of your building and out of your company. And it's the right mentality. But when you realize you're protecting your team by cutting that person, it's not so hard to do.
I
Dr.
love
Don,
talking
the
about
surgeon, giving you the best advice here.
I love talking
but-
about culture. I think you got to know your own culture index, as it were. Know what makes yourself tick, because that's how it's going to affect you when you go to sell your business. What's your why? Why are you doing this to begin with? Gary Fee said it best: hire fast, fire faster, and
Yes.
promote fastest. And that's exactly what we do. I have 222 employees at my Amazon guy, and we follow that to a T. Tying this into the original question, mistakes made. So I'm going to give you one where I made a mistake with Amazon, and that is I made the mistake of trusting Amazon. So this doesn't affect selling a business per se, but for those that are going to sell a business or are running an Amazon business, don't trust Amazon. So here's the story. I have in my hand here a hot sauce bottle, Sweet Heat. Spent $1,500 making a great label. Sent it out to 100 people and did taste tests. Everybody loved it, got great reviews. So what do? I ordered a pallet of this stuff, filled it to the brim, shipped it into Amazon FBA, and I paid Amazon to do the prep work. And what I mean by that is they took my bottle. This is a 5-pound bottle. It's glass. It's super heavy, right? Like super heavy glass bottle. So this 5-pound bottle is being bubble wrapped by Amazon. And I said, great. They're doing the prep work. They're putting the FNSKU on. They put bubble wrap on it. And then what did they do? They fricking shipped it out in padded envelopes. So make sure your logistics is in check. Otherwise, you're going to make mistakes about trusting Amazon, because guess what happened after that? 500 items go out the door in that first week of my honeymoon period. Oh my gosh, the pictures of sauce everywhere, across the mail, across the porch. So many pissed off customers. Don't trust Amazon.
Oh, could you imagine being the FedEx and the UPS guys handling that hot sauce? I used to work at FedEx, and it was like just a huge slide where you're throwing the packages down. Like, I just imagine rivers of hot sauce falling out of these envelopes.
and I called Amazon, I ticketed Amazon, and I'm like, hey, can you ship this out in boxes? And they're like, no. And I'm like, what the frick?
Makes sense. You expect hot sauce to be in an envelope, so you get it.
It's like Jim Carrey delivering a package. Remember?
Oh, that's an awesome story.
I'm sure the physical comedy was
Yeah.
was enjoyed by everybody on that one. Well, great. So we're coming up on an hour here. I would say last call for questions here. in the chat. Any other questions? Either put them in the chat or pop them in the Q&A, and we'll take care of that. I guess one other thing we could talk about, Greg, you have maybe we could keep it brief, but you have a bit you like to talk about called the Asset Flywheel. You actually gave a presentation on this really recently, and
Yeah.
you know, I think Tyler mentioned having, you know, an objective, right, for when you're actually exiting. You know, do so on purpose and have an objective for that cash. Maybe you can speak a little bit more about this, the Asset Flywheel concept.
Sure. So it's a super simple concept, so I won't spend a lot of time on it. I give a fairly in-depth presentation on it just recently where Jim was with me in Dubai. It was great. It was an awesome conference. But the basic concept is when you go and sell your business, that's usually like the largest amount of like often life-changing capital you've ever gotten, right? So you should have a plan of what to do with that capital. Otherwise, you get into this like entrepreneurial depression. Like you're happy for 5 minutes and like, oh God, what do I do with myself now? Like, so you should have a plan for that capital. And the asset flywheel is basically takes into the concept of what you already are doing. So you go and sell that $1 million FBA business, and then you go buy, say, a couple 200K Amazon FBA businesses are similar to the business you just sold. And then maybe you can use someone like, you know, Don or AccrueMe to get some funding in there and grow it even faster. And the advantage of that is if you selling that $1 million business and then buying, say, a 200K business, is like you already know the road ahead, right? You've built up to that stage, and it could be any number. You know, it could be a $15 million business. You buy a $1 million business, right? But the main thing is you already know the path to growth because you literally just walked it. Then now you have capital to go buy those businesses, grow them, and it's usually a lot easier to grow businesses that you buy versus from scratch. And the cool thing is you can go back and sell those businesses. And that's one of the big advantages of the flywheel. It's a lot easier to sell a business you bought than to sell a brand new business. Because like we mentioned earlier, you usually need that 12 to 24 month period. If you buy a business, it's not like it doesn't have that, right? Just because you've owned it for a month doesn't mean it doesn't have 36 months of data behind it. I've seen people literally sell businesses with us that they bought from us like a month or two later. The quickest one, this is a crazy story. Do not recommend doing this at all, but it's a very funny story. This guy bought a very small business from us. It was like, I think 100K, 105K or something like that. And he's like, oh, that seemed like there was a lot of competition. And is there anyone still interested in buying this? Like, well, we can check. And so we did. And like, he's like, okay, I'll sell it for 115K if you find someone. And literally like that, like a couple hours later, one of the buyers who's competing bought it for 115K. So he's like owned this business for like a couple hours. We haven't even like transferred it to him properly yet, right? So I don't recommend that, obviously, but you can't do that with a business you built from scratch because there's no data. So that's how the asset flywheel works. You build a business, buy a business, sell the business you built and bought, and you just keep repeating that cycle.
Makes all the sense in the world. And every time you buy that business, truthfully, as you said, we'll give you the capital to double the size of that company. So nobody's buying a business to let it just go flat. You're buying the business because you see an opportunity to grow. And if you can take that $100,000 business and turn it into $1 million business in a relatively short period of time, and you can, we can provide you the capital to do that. Again, no interest, no fees, no payments. And we provide more money every month, as much as you need just to keep growing the business. So about 95% of our sellers are literally growing like that, 400% a year, 500% a year, some of them higher than that, some of them a little lower. We have a very small group, maybe 3 or 4 that are not growing, but the rest of them are just through the roof. It's really exciting to see.
That's the cool thing about doing this. Like you're buying a proven business, it already has that market traction. So then you throw like what you get offered on with that money. That's like, it's fuel on the fire of something that's already proven to work. So they're like, yeah, I think that's an amazing combination. I've seen people personally do the asset flywheel become very wealthy over my 6-year career without doing the funny thing. So if you add funding to that, I can only imagine it going much faster.
Oh my God. Absolutely.
Speaking of funding, we did get, we got another question here. They ask, when does it make sense to take on outside investors? Is it better to self-fund everything? Don, I'm sure you have commentary on that. I'll flip that on its head. Who qualifies to receive funding from someone like AccrueMe?
we're pretty simple. You're in business for 6 months, but somebody has experience in the Amazon world and they buy a business, they're in. There's no more that you need than that. All we look at is the inventory. We look at the inventory. We built the system to analyze the inventory, how fast it will sell, and will it be profitable? And that's all we really care about. We don't look at credit reports. We don't ask for financial statements, bank statements, or any of that. We just want to see that you know what you're doing and that you've got a plan. And we ask this question of everybody: do you really want to grow? And I'll tell you the analogy that I like to use. Do you want to grow like a man with his hair on fire searching for a pond? Do you want to grow that bad? And if you want to grow that bad, and that's what most entrepreneurs really want, but how do I do it? And how do I get the money to go and get it done? You go to a Steven and he's going to show you how to do it. We'll give you the money to fund the business to grow like this. When you see, we have so many accounts, it's exciting to see. When you see somebody, I'll just give you a quick one I just looked at maybe a month ago. When he started with us about 11 months ago, he was earning $2,000 a month. Last month or the month before, he earned $44,000 in profit. That's life-changing. And he just came, and the reason I looked at the account is because he just came back for another $28,000. And a very interesting business. He was adding to his model. So he was going from one model to diversify into another model. So adding wholesale to his business and just growing by leaps and bounds. We actually gave him the supplier for the wholesale business, and he's probably going to spend $20,000, $30,000 a month there. And I know the products; it's guaranteed profit. So we're very simple as far as that goes. We're really looking at the inventory, not what you've done in the past. We're looking how the inventory has performed and will perform. And then it's, again, the key to us really is having no payments. Everybody knows, and if I asked anybody the question, does it make sense to leave money in your business to grow? Can you grow faster if you left money in the business or take it out? Clearly, everybody would say, leave it in. It's rhetorical. Well, why then would you take money out of your business to send it to a lender every month? It just doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't make any sense. Well, and then the question comes up, well, when do we pay? Well, you pay when it's right for you and your business. When you have a slow period, you're going to be flush with cash. Send some money. It reduces our part of the deal. When you're going to sell, we have guys making no payments for 2 years, 2.5 years. They are going to sell. They are in the process. And when they sell, we just get our original profit, original investment and our accrued profit. So basically our last investment in the business is all we get. And they keep all the upside. So that's how the whole thing works. It's unique. It's never been done before. And it's exciting. It's fun to see.
That's an amazing model. That story reminds me like why I got into the space way back in the day when I was, still an oil field roughneck up in Alaska. Like, it's amazing what a well-ran digital business like an Amazon FBA business can, really do for someone, especially if they apply all the stuff you guys have been talking about this whole webinar. It's amazing how fast things can change.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I think a couple of anecdotes, but so the question was, when does it make sense to bring in outside investors? And I think, step one is to make sure your profit engine is strong, because adding capital, adding fuel to a bad engine is going to create an explosion. And so I think knowing, so this is not just the bookkeeping side, but knowing your numbers, understanding whether you have an engine that's worth investing in. If you had $100,000 and you would not choose to invest it in your product, then I would not advise you to take anyone else's money.
I agree. And
then the second thing is, I think an investor could mean, a debt investor or an equity investor. And I think the prevailing wisdom is like, if you bring an equity investor in, you bring a real investor if you want to de-risk yourself, but then they get a lot of the upside when you go to exit, right? So now you have somebody that owns the business with you, you lose some of the control. If you get a debt or bring on a loan or get AccrueMe, that's one of those models, right? You get something where you owe somebody money, it can give you the capital to grow. You maintain control, and in some ways you also maintain the risk, right? You haven't actually brought on someone who's only getting paid if if you're able to pay everything else. So it's I think it just is a personal decision. I have business partners. I'm a big fan of partnerships. I like to have control of my partnerships, and I want to, if the SBA or the CARES Act or the EIDL will throw me money, I probably go there first, and then I'm going to call Don and make sure that I have the right debt funding set up. And that for me personally, and then I'm going to probably try to bring on an actual equity investor last, unless I don't have another option. Like we were talking about businesses that are harder to sell right now. If you're in like CBD or like Second Amendment, or there are some categories that are really difficult to find traditional investors for, where I may need to get more creative in finding funding vehicles. And in those cases, if I need cash, I got to find it. But again, step one, do I have a profit engine that's healthy? Am I healthy enough for funding activities, right? That kind of thing. Because if I'm not, I'm going to create a big mess if I try to bring on money.
100%. It's interesting because we see this all the time. We will only invest in a business that is profitable and has profitable products. It's, we want growth. We only make money when the seller makes money. That's it. So we don't want to go into something that's not. But what's scary is we look at many businesses and we have to say no to in a good amount because they already have debt way up here and their profit is all the way down here. So, it's nothing. They have almost no profit and they have tremendous amounts of debt that we look at and we get scared. We feel bad for them. No, we can't help you. But, we literally just, when we get off the phone, it's like, oh my God, they don't know what they're doing. They get into so much trouble. I don't know how these people are going to get out of the trouble. And it's a good amount.
If money can solve the problem, you don't have a problem. You have an expense. But most of the problems people have can't be solved by money, right? Tyler talked about people problems. There could be system problems. There could be all kinds of challenges that businesses have.
Absolutely.
There you go. There you go. And we're getting close to wrapping up here. Maybe we have another question here. Yeah, we do. For selling my business on Amazon, should I have an American company, an Amazon storefront, brand registry, etc.? That is a good question and one we run into. Do you guys find complications when trying to sell an FBA business that's been structured outside of the United States?
From an Amazon standpoint, none whatsoever. But go ahead, guys.
I have commentary too, and let's in case we need it.
I imagine your commentary and mine are going to be quite similar.
Yeah.
But yeah, for selling your business, you don't need to have, like, most businesses we sell are what is called an asset purchase agreement, APA kind of sell, not like a stock or share sell. So in that case, like, it's not the actual business entity that is being transferred over to the buyer, but rather it's the asset, right? Like the SKUs, the inventory, all that kind of stuff. And in terms of Amazon, like transferring it, like, as far as I know, I could be wrong this, Jim, because you were closer to me, but I don't think we've ever ran into any problems with transferring Amazon accounts, like transferring the Amazon business over to the new buyer. Like, it takes forever because it's just a tedious process, but
Yeah, I mean,
there were some problems with European account transfers back when those first got started, but those have been smoothed out.
That's right. Yeah.
That's a good point.
Early days. Yeah.
But like transferring an account, super easy from an Amazon perspective. Transferring an ASIN or some product or FBA inventory, now we're talking a different question, right?
That is a much worse form of transferring.
So if you're going to sell your business, I would prepare to sell the whole account as well as the admin email address to go with it. That's the cleanest, most valuable. You're going to get a higher EBITDA. You're going to get more brownie points with the buyer and more interest. It's just cleaner, right? Especially if they've bought a business before and they know what they're signing up for. Sometimes I'll get on a coaching call with somebody who bought a business, but they had to start their own account, transfer the ASINs, not realizing you can't actually transfer FBA inventory. Then they had to wait for the weighing down of the original account to sell out before they could have their own account on. And it was just super messy, one thing after another. So clean account transfer, highly recommended.
Absolutely. Sorry, go ahead, Tyler.
No, I was just going to say, I think you guys are spot on there. So I think all things being equal, probably having a US based LLC is a little bit easier than having something based somewhere else. But to everyone's point here, if you're doing an asset sale, as long as you can provide the due diligence items, then it matters less now than maybe it used to. But the comment that Stephen made there is so important. We've seen so many deals fall apart, maybe even pre-due diligence, because you're trying to sell like one pile of ASINs out of one Amazon seller account, but not the entire account. And so just know that if you're the person that only, I've been waiting to get a second Seller Central account because it used to be really hard and Amazon kind of frowned on it, but I really only want to sell brand A. I don't want to sell brand B. Just know that there are some of the Amazon expenses that even your really savvy aggregators can't split because, for instance, campaign level data within Seller Central deletes after, what is it, Stephen, 60, 90 days, something like that, right? And as a result, if I actually want to get maximum value for a brand, it is prudent, especially if I have 12 months, to go ahead and have it be in its own Seller Central account, make sure it's clean, make sure I'm giving them the whole. I don't want to try to sell them one slice of the pie because then I've got to convince them that everything in there is accurate. I want to try to sell them an entire piece of pie. And so again, all things being equal, I'd probably go with the US. If you don't have an entity right now, set up a US entity. But if you're like in the UK and you're going to sell this year, I wouldn't worry about moving. I think you're probably fine.
So advertising campaigns have a history. And if you don't know this, if you were to start a brand new campaign, even on your own Amazon account, and put the exact same keywords as the original campaign that has 100 sales on it, the new campaign wouldn't do as well. ACoS would be 25% minimum higher. So think about that. If on your own account, a second campaign duplicated does worse, what happens when you transfer accounts? Right. So if you don't transfer the account with them, you're actually harming the ACoS for a minimum of 30, most likely 60 days before it returns to normal. And then if you're doing an earn out, right, your first 1 or 2 months transferring that out, not so sexy, right? So that's why I think transferring the account, way to go, not transfer the ASINs.
Yeah, transfer the account is way better for everything you guys have just said. Now, if you are in a position where you literally cannot do that for whatever reason, you can transfer the ASIN, right? Like that is possible. We've done it, but just go in with the expectations. But take a while. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, like Steve mentioned, it's a whole project, and that's why we literally have migration advisors that handle those situations.
Oh, that's a little plug for us. Like if you use another broker, most brokers do not have migrations because they don't want the liability. So if you don't want to deal with this mess, and you want to use a broker where they're the only people down with the migrations team to actually help you out on that stuff.
So what do you mean by that, Gregory? What do you mean migrations?
Yeah, so when someone buys a business from us or sells a business, right? So we have an entire department just dedicated to migrating those businesses over, whether it's Amazon FBA, content business, service business, any kind of business we sell, right?
Like get all the logins in order, that kind of thing.
Yeah, or in the case of the ASIN thing, like working with Amazon to make sure that happens, right? And making sure both sides are, staying on track to make sure they do what they've both promised each other to do, which is sometimes a bit difficult, to be honest, even though they both agreed to it. So all that kind of stuff. We have checklists. We have a bunch of systems. We've sold so many now. We've encountered probably, I would wager, most problems that you'd encounter. So we probably have an SOP on how to fix it, right? So that's what our migration team, they specialize in that.
Whole thing. Well, and I guess we're coming up on time here. Maybe we're gonna do kind of one last round, maybe kind of like a plug for each company here, maybe. I don't know, Tyler, why don't we kind of we'll let you lead with kind of who do you work with? What's who's a good customer?
Yeah, so for seller accountants, if you're $250,000 a year to $20 million a year in revenue, since we're accounting, it tends to be US based entities for us, and you need bookkeeping and or CFO or a good service. But my plug here is really for these other guys. I actually have my Amazon guy shirt on here, Steven.
Nice.
Thanks, Tyler.
I was thinking of wearing one too.
Yeah, he should have. We should have.
I need to get one. I need to get one.
All right, give me the address.
Steven's
Greg.
team does a great
Steven
job.
will take care
I'll
of
send
it.
it to you. I'll send it to you.
Don's team does a great job. I honestly haven't done as many direct deals with you guys at Empire Flippers, but you guys have such a great reputation. I think I'm surrounded by excellence in this room here, and so I think if you have a need, there's probably an expert here that can help you solve your problem.
Well, clearly, I'll jump in. Clearly, I feel the same way because Greg and Jim came to me and said, "Who do you think we should have on here? Who are the experts?" And I recommended Tyler and Steven because I just think of them way up here. They are, you know, the best in this industry, and and great people. They're just honest and knowledgeable. I mean, I've referred them out so many times; it's incredible. Anyway, so yeah, with AccrueMe, you know what we're about. We're about giving you the capital you need to grow. It's all about growth. It's not about just paying bills. You know, it's about leaving money in the business to grow. And I guarantee you, it'll astonish you once you see profits compounding on profits. It is unlike nothing you've ever done before. So it's an exciting thing to see. I'll leave it at that. And Greg and Jim, thanks for inviting us.
Steve, you want to go ahead?
Sure. So my Amazon guy, 200-person agency focused on growing brands on Amazon. And I just want to say I've had dinner with some of these folks. I've met Tyler many times in person. I've seen Dan at Prosper's. I think we ran into each other at Powwow as well, if I remember right.
We did.
And same with Empire Flippers. It's been fun watching Empire Flippers from afar for years. Right? Like just seeing every email they send out with all of the information about potential brands that you can get your hands on, right? Like there's so many people out there that are just like, just want to watch and see like, oh, that one brand one day, it'll come across my email someday. I'd encourage you just get on a phone call with these guys. They'll tell you what's coming before it's even out live, right? Like they can give you the in, set up a call, talk to Empire Flippers. And I would resoundingly say, you know, these are great people to work with. So thanks for watching today. And it's my pleasure to join the podcast here with Empire Flippers, AccrueMe, and Seller Accountant.
Yeah, just to echo what everyone else said, it's been awesome doing this with all three of you guys and you, Jim. It's been great. Like really good advice. So anyone out there in the audience that is seeking like their specializations, these are probably, if not the best, certainly the best I know in the industry when it comes to that stuff. And of course, if you're looking to sell your business to our buyer network, we're more than happy to help you at Empire Flippers. So you feel free to reach out to me. You can send me an email or a Facebook message or a LinkedIn message. Usually pretty easy to get a hold of. Happy to help you, or happy to introduce you to Tyler, Don, or Steve if you want to get a hold of them, or really anyone. We're always happy to help, whether you use us or not, right?
Great.
There you go. Well, I think we'll leave it there, and great send off. So much love in this room. So many experts.
I'm feeling it, the vibes.
Rub
great.
the ball
Well,
heads for
man.
good luck.
Great.
Life is short.
Yes.
Oh no!
Yeah.
I have too much hair. Too
One
much
thing
hair.
you can't.
Time to shave.
Yep. There you go. Awesome. Well, we'll call it there, guys. Let's wrap up. And thanks for everyone for joining us. And we'll see you next time.
We'll see you guys.
See you guys.
Thanks, guys.